The White Witch moved slowly, her movements smooth, deliberate. Her robes cascaded around her like liquid moonlight, woven from threads of something beyond mere fabric. They shimmered in the dim light, shifting between silver and white as though reflecting an unseen force. For a long moment, she simply studied Akanisha, the weight of her gaze palpable despite her blindness. "You do not know what you are yet," she said softly. Her voice was neither commanding nor condescending. It held certainty, a quiet patience, because she was chosen to serve this entity in front of her, even more because she'd read countless texts and prophecies detailing the personality of Her Majesty. Akanisha frowned, her arms crossing. "Then tell me." The White Witch smiled, a smile that held secrets carved into time itself. "Not yet," she whispered. Akanisha's eyes narrowed. A flicker of something ancient burned in her chest, a heat she could not explain. She had never been patient, she had never liked riddles. She wanted answers. "Why?" she asked, her voice steady. The White Witch's eyes began to glow. A light that was not light, a radiance that was not of this world. Something primordial was surging in the air between them, something raw, something untouched by mortal hands. The wind stirred and the sanctuary itself seemed to listen. And then she spoke. "You carry within you the Etherion Code. It is the genetic code of the very first Ancient One." The words settled over Akanisha like the weight of a mountain. She did not understand them fully, not yet, but something in her did. The White Witch continued. "The primordial God code lost forever to time." Her voice was reverent, almost breathless. "It has only been spoken of in the oldest texts, in whispers passed from seer to seer, a force not meant to walk among mortals again." Akanisha felt her pulse quicken. "God code. God code. What do you mean by God code?" she asked hurriedly, but the White Witch did not respond. The air thickened, charged with something she had no name for. She opened her mouth to speak, to ask more questions, to demand more answers. But then the wind sighed, the trees shivered, and Akanisha perceived it. A realization that did not come as thought, but as knowing. This place, the White Witch's sanctuary. It was not here by chance. It was not coincidence. It had all been designed so she would be here. It had always been here for her. The village she was born in, the forest that had sheltered her, the whispers that had followed her since childhood, all of it led to this moment. Akanisha's hands curled into fists. Her past was not random. Her power was not accidental. She was here for a reason, and she would find out why. The White Witch's home was unlike anything Akanisha had ever seen. She had always believed herself to be unshaken, untouched by awe. But this place, this sanctuary hidden deep within the heart of the unknown, was beyond anything she had ever imagined. The villagers had spoken of it in fear and wonder. They called it a place so alluring, so hauntingly beautiful, that those who entered never wished to leave. And now, as Akanisha stepped deeper into its embrace, she understood why. It was alive. Not just the trees, not just the flowers, everything. The air itself hummed, vibrating with a quiet energy that pressed against her skin, wrapping around her like an unseen presence. The vines along the walls of the dwelling shifted slightly, their leaves curling and unfurling as if in response to her movements. The wooden beams above them creaked softly, but not in the way of aging wood. They breathed, adjusting, reshaping as though aware of their occupants. And the lanterns, they hung in mid-air, floating without chains, their soft glow pulsing faintly as if they had a heartbeat of their own. There were no visible flames inside them, and yet they burned with an eternal light. Akanisha inhaled deeply, filling her lungs with the rich, intoxicating scent of the space. It was not flowers, not herbs. It was something deeper, something old, a presence woven into the very fabric of this place. Akanisha exhaled slowly, trying to steady herself. Her mind told her this was unnatural, but her soul told her otherwise. The White Witch moved effortlessly, leading her through the great hall of the sanctuary, past walls that did not seem to hold any fixed shape. They were not built, they had grown, and as Akanisha trailed behind, she could feel it, the shifting, the living pulse of the structure itself. This was not a house in the way humans built houses. This was a being. A place that did not just exist, but remembered. A place that watched. A place that chose. They reached the base of a winding staircase, crafted not from stone or wood, but from woven branches, twisting seamlessly into one another like living veins of the earth itself. Akanisha hesitated. Something in her stirred. Her instincts whispered. She was not stepping onto an object. She was stepping into something's trust. She placed her foot onto the first step. The staircase responded, not with sound, not with movement, but with acceptance. The house knew her now. She followed the White Witch upward, her heart pounding softly in her chest. As they ascended, the very walls around them shifted, reshaping, making room for them as they walked. Akanisha's breath hitched. She could feel it, the house adjusting its form, bending, expanding in ways that were impossible, in ways that should not be. But here, in this sanctuary, nothing was impossible. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was quieter than she intended. "Is this magic?" The White Witch turned slightly, her silver eyes glowing faintly. For a moment she did not answer. Then with a whisper as soft as the wind she spoke. "It is not magic," she said. "It is balance." Akanisha frowned slightly, unsettled but intrigued. She did not fully understand, but she felt it. The harmony, the stillness, the power woven into the air. And for the first time in her life, she did not feel like she was intruding. She did not feel like a stranger in a world that would not accept her. She did not feel like a force misplaced in the balance of existence. For the first time, she felt like she belonged. The White Witch led Akanisha through the winding halls of the sanctuary, deeper than she had ever gone. Each step forward felt like a descent into something ancient, something untouched by the mortal world. And then they reached it. A circular chamber at the very heart of the sanctuary. Akanisha inhaled sharply. It was beautiful beyond words. The walls were not stone. They were woven silver branches, twisting together like threads in an unseen loom, shimmering softly, their glow pulsing like the steady rhythm of a heartbeat. Pools of glowing water lined the chamber floor, scattered like celestial mirrors, their surfaces reflecting not the ceiling above, but something else, something unreal. And the skylight. A vast opening in the chamber's dome revealed the constellations, shifting in slow, deliberate motion. Akanisha frowned. It was not yet night, and yet the stars shone above them. She exhaled slowly, unease and wonder warring within her. The White Witch walked forward with effortless grace and lowered herself onto a throne carved from the roots of an ancient tree. The throne was alive. It pulsed faintly beneath her touch, as if recognizing its master. And then she did something that made Akanisha's breath catch. She lifted a hand to her face, her fingers pressing gently over her closed eyes. For a heartbeat, there was nothing. And then she opened them. Akanisha stiffened. Her throat tightened. The White Witch's eyes were not normal. They were empty. Not in the way of blindness, not in the way of sightless voids. No, they were a pure nothingness. A void of absolute purity, untouched by sin, untouched by corruption, untouched by the imperfections of the world. And yet they saw everything. Akanisha felt it deep in her bones. The woman was not looking at her. She was looking through her, not at her face, not at her body, but at the very essence of what she was. Akanisha's breath hitched. She clenched her fists, a part of her instinctively recoiling from the exposure. It was like standing naked before the truth itself, like the fabric of her very being was unraveling under the woman's gaze. She fought the urge to step back, to shield herself, to run. And then the White Witch spoke. Her voice was soft, knowing. "You do not understand yourself yet." Akanisha's jaw tightened. She had grown tired of riddles, tired of half-truths, tired of being told she was something more, but never told what. She met the White Witch's gaze, her own eyes burning with something deep, something frustrated, something desperate. "Then tell me," she demanded. The White Witch smiled sadly. Akanisha hated that smile, hated its patience, its quiet acceptance, its refusal to simply give her the answers she craved. "I cannot tell you," she whispered. Her voice was filled with something Akanisha could not name. A weight, a sorrow, a certainty. "You must remember." Akanisha's frown deepened. "Remember what?" The White Witch's lips barely moved now. Her voice was no longer a whisper. It was a breath, barely audible, a whisper carried by the air itself. "Who you were before you were forgotten." That night, Akanisha could not sleep. She lay beneath the sanctuary's vast ceiling, wrapped in silence, but sleep never came. The words of the White Witch clung to her like an unfinished melody, lingering in the hollow spaces of her mind. Who you were before you were forgotten. Akanisha frowned in the darkness. She did not feel forgotten. She felt like she had been waiting for something she did not yet understand. Waiting for a truth that had not yet revealed itself. She exhaled softly, pushing off the woven mat beneath her. Restlessness stirred in her limbs, a silent force urging her to move, to seek, to find. So she did. She drifted through the sanctuary's endless corridors, past living walls that breathed, past lanterns that floated without chains, and then she was there, by the river. The golden water reflected the night sky, the constellations shifting in ways that defied time itself. Akanisha stood at its edge, her arms crossed, her heart heavy. The air was too still, the silence too full. She stared at her own reflection, watching as the liquid gold shimmered with her every breath. She thought about what the White Witch had said. What had she meant? Who you were before you were forgotten. The words tugged at something deep inside her, a chord that had not been played in centuries, or perhaps ever. And then she saw it. A shadow, not hers, not a reflection. Something else. It drifted beneath the water, watching, not moving, just watching. Akanisha's pulse quickened, her breath hitched. The air around her thickened, charged with an energy she could not name. She knelt, the golden glow of the water illuminating her face, her fingers trembling slightly as she reached toward the surface. And then the shadow moved. The water did not ripple, did not shift, did not break, but the shadow rose. Akanisha's breath caught, and then she heard it. A whisper, barely audible, carried by the wind, a voice she did not know. And yet, it knew her. The whisper curled around her like unseen fingers, tracing the edges of her soul. We have been waiting. Her body tensed. The river glowed brighter, its golden hues deepening, the constellations above shifting faster, unnaturally. She could not move, could not speak, because something within her knew. This was not the first time she had heard this voice, not the first time she had been called, and it would not be the last.